Hi, this is a recorded lesson about the captain of this 1964 Top of the Form team by Carol Ann Duffy. We're going to start with this idea that Simon Armitage has about poetry refusing to conform, and it can't be a mainstream art form. And I want you to think about his words, have a read, have a think about it. And in essence, he's saying that poetry won't conform to anything that art normally conforms to. Its subject doesn't always conform either, and I want you to think about this in Carol Ann Duffy's poetry and make some notes about where she doesn't conform, where her poems don't really write about things you'd expect poetry to be writing about. So pause, make yourself some notes, have a think about all of the poems that we've studied so far. We've only got 3 left to study in the collection, so this should be fairly straightforward for you. Welcome back. So I'm going to read it to you. This should be a very familiar moment for you because we do this in every lesson. I'm just going to read it the once for you this time though, and I'm going to hope that you read it lots of times on your own. So you read to the punctuation, you read to the end of the line, you do all sorts of things that you possibly can to get you thinking about this, because that's how we think about the structure of the poem. That's how we get to think about the meaning of the poem. Because remember, first reading doesn't ever really help you to understand what the poem's about. You need to read it lots of times to get the feel of the poem, and in getting the feel of the poem you'll get to understand what it's about. But as I read, I want you to think about these 4 things. I'm interested in, I'm puzzled by, my best image is, this reminds me of. So here goes. The captain of the 1964 Top of the Form team. Do a diddy diddy baby love, oh pretty woman, were in the top 10 that month. October and the Beatles were everywhere else. I can give you the B-side of the Supremes one. Hang on. Come see about me. I lived in a kind of fizzing hope, gargling with Vimto, the clever smell of my satchel. Convent girls. I pulled my hair forward with a steel comb that I blew like Mick, my lips numb as a 2-hour snog. No snags. The Nile rises in April, blue and white. The hummingbird's song is made by its wings, which beat so fast that they blur in flight. I knew the capitals, the kings and queens, the dates. In class, the white sleeve of my shirt saluted again and again. Sir, correct. Later, I whooped at the side of my bike. A cowboy mounted it, running in one jump. I sped down Dyke Hill. No hands, famous, learning, Dominus Domini Dominum. Dave D. Dozy, try me, come on. My mother kept my mascot gonk on the TV set for a year, and the photograph. I look so brainy you'd think I'd just had a bath. The blazer, the badge, the tie, the first chord of a hard day's night, loud in my head. I ran to the spinney in my prize shoes, up Churchill Way, up Nelson Drive, over pink pavements that girls chalked on, in a blue evening, and I stamped the paw prints of badgers and skunks in the mud. My country. I wanted back, the captain, the one with all the answers. Bzzz. My name was in red on Lucille Green's jotter. I smiled, as wide as a child who went missing on the way home from school. The Keene. I say to my stale wife, 6 hits by Dusty Springfield. I say to my boss, a pint. How can we know the dancer from the dance? Nobody. My thick kids wince. Name the Prime Minister of Rhodesia. My country. How many florins in a pound? And the first thing that struck me as I was reading that was all of the internal rhymes. So there are lots of places where there are rhymes in the middle of the lines of poetry, which I think is very interesting. We've got blue and white, and then so fast that they blur in flight. So that flight rhymes with white, but it's in the middle of the line, and there are more of them there. But just for now, I want you to think about what you're interested in, what you're puzzled by, your best image, and this reminds me of. See if you can make a note of those 4 things, pause, and then come back. Welcome back. I'm going to share mine with you. I'm really interested in these references to popular culture. There's lots of them about singing and songs and pop songs. The top 10. And you can, if you'd like to, you can go and listen to all of these songs. They're brilliant. They've got a real sense of energy about the songs that I mentioned here. And then you've got Dave D and Dozy, which are another band. So there's this energy in it, and that really interests me, that sense of place and time. I'm really puzzled by the ending of the poem. I can't quite work out what's happening there, so I'm going to have to do some more work on that one. My best image, I look so brainy you'd think I'd just had a bath. I love it. It doesn't make any sense, does it? Clever people don't just look like they're bathed, but it does bring to mind an image of that person with their hair brushed and clean and sparkly and ready for anything. So it does. I like that when you look at it, it's nonsensical, but actually it also makes perfect sense at the same time. The word fizzing reminds me of Before You Were Mine. She talks about fizzed in Before You Were Mine, and then I started thinking about Before You Were Mine is a poem about a childhood, about memories of a childhood, and this is about memories of a childhood as well. So that's my 4 things. So I don't know whether yours are similar or different. So just to help us get to know the poem, you're going to have to read it again lots of times yourself, I think. But the captain of the 1964 Top of the Form team. The Top of the Form was a radio, and then it became a television quiz programme. It was popular in the 1960s. If you've ever watched University Challenge, it was a bit like that, except it was school children instead of university. And the narrator and the speaker in this poem is an adult man who's remembering when he captained his school team, so when he was the most important person in the world. And it really does seem, life seems to have gone downhill for him since then. And I think Duffy is being gently mocking of him. I don't think it's got a lot of venom in it, but she's not being very kind to him either, is she? So make yourself some notes, read the poem again, see if that changes how you feel about it. Now in a moment you're going to annotate the poem, and there are some words here to help you, some terminology to help you annotate it. And I think that what's not on there is Volta, and the Volta is the turning point of a poem. So where does this poem turn? At what moment do we think, oh, right, there you go, we've had this, this and this, and now we're getting the truth of the matter? I think it's when he says, I want it back. He wants to be the captain. He wants to be that really important person who knows everything, who everybody admires. That's what I think it's about. So quickly read the poem and underline anything you can see here. And highlight it. Remember that you're not just spotting these features though. You are, in essence, going to tell me what the effect of them is. And here's some more terminology that you can use thinking specifically about semantics. So remember, you've done euphemisms and dysphemisms, done all of these things, and I want you to think about where Carol Ann Duffy is using these in the poem. So reread it again. This will be Year 3rd reading of it. Remember, the more often you read the poem, the better your understanding of it is, and the more things start to click and you realise how clever Carol Ann Duffy is. So, here's some annotations for you on the next 4 slides, 1 for each stanza, that you can copy. I'd like you to see if you've got these already, but remember what's happening in these annotations is it's saying things like flows of B and D, and that emphasises the excitement about the memories. And remember, I said that I think that the reference to the songs, if you go in and listen to those songs, you'll get a real sense of excitement and life being full of joy. So next 4 slides, you can pause on each slide and annotate as you go. Add to your annotation. So you should have a really, really well annotated poem by now. And the ending of it. Now, we've read and thought about the poem, and I want you to create a collage or a mood board for it. I want you to, this can be a digital, so you can just troll through the internet and find pictures of it, but it should contain lots of images that would help someone to understand the poem and its setting. What would be brilliant is if you could find if you could put links into the songs and things like that. So I want you to think about the time. How is this rooted in the 1960s? And how is this rooted in England? Okay. So I want you to stop and do that. When you've done that, please come back. So you've finished. You've got your mood board there. I want you now to type up 10 focus bullet points to accompany your collage mood board. And I want you to explain the images you've chosen and their significance, your interpretation of the poem's meaning, what you think it's about, and an explanation, and this is a really important one, of how Duffy has created the voice in this dramatic monologue. Okay, so how has she created the voice of a disillusioned adult man thinking back to his past? Okay, what techniques does she use? So Duffy has created a real sense of self, and Jackie Kay, another poet, says nothing matters more than who we are in the world, where we have been and where we are going. And I think that in this poem Duffy has created a very specific persona. We know where he went, we know where he is, and we know that he's not happy about where he sees his life going. So I want you to think about it in the poem, and I want you to make some notes about this. Is where does Duffy explore the theme of conflict and identity? Where is the narrative voice conflicted? And where is their identity rooted? How does she create this identity for this character? Because I think it's a very strong and clear identity. So make yourself some notes on that and then come back. So we've got changes in self here, haven't we? What changes to the identity happen in the poem, and what are the reasons for the change? What changes in language help to construct the change? So you think about lexis and semantics, grammar, phonetics and phonology, pragmatics and discourse. So this should help you to come up with a real solid reading of this poem and what it's about. There's a link here if you're still wrestling with this one to a man and it's talking you through the poem if you really want to. So I'm going to let you go now. Hopefully you've got a really solid grasp of the captain of the 1964 top of the form team. And what I'd like you to do is upload all of your notes, upload your mood board or collage and the bullet points that go with that to Teams. I've put an assignment on Teams for you to post to. Thanks very much for listening. See you all soon.